Okay, good evening, everyone. I am Shannon Rutherford, the town planner for Farmington. I am going to start this evening's Town Plan and Zoning Commission meeting with a roll call of members, and then we'll turn it over to the chair to officially start the meeting. So with the roll call, I have Patrick Carrier.
Here.
Scott Halstead.
Here.
Inez St. James.
Here.
Marcy Schwartz.
Here.
John Vibert.
Here.
Keith Vibert.
Here.
And I will note for the record that Barbara Brenneman and Mike Grabulis are both absent this evening.
Okay. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, everyone. Welcome to the Farmington Plan and Zoning Commission meeting, December 7th, 2021. This is the last meeting for us this calendar year. This is also the last meeting for our alternates, Keith and John. I wanted to acknowledge both of you gentlemen for your time, always being prepared, asking great questions, and thank you again for your service.
You're welcome.
All right. And both, again, Mike and Barbara are not here, so Keith and John, both of you will be voting members this evening. Okay? All right. And before we get started, I would like to ask Scott to be the acting secretary this evening. Scott, is that okay with you?
That's fine. Thank you.
Wonderful. So go ahead and read the legal notice, please.
Okay. Town of Farmington Town Plan and Zoning Commission. Notice is hereby given that the Town Plan and Zoning Commission will hold an online public hearing Tuesday, December 7, 2021 at 7:00 p.m. on the following applications. Philip Guglielmo, application for special permit for expansion of home in excess of 30% of the area of the principal residential building and more than 3,200 square feet of total area at 404 Main Street, R20 zone. Robert I'm going to murder this name, Scheckinger, Jr., ASLA, application for special permits and site application for charitable and philanthropic institution use, partial demolition of existing historic barn, parking dimensions and installation of monument sign located at 119 Copper Mine Road, R40 zone. 402 Farmington Ave, LLC, application for modification to condition of approval granted May 24, 2021. Relating to rooftop amenity space at lots 40 and 40B1 Farmington Avenue, aka 8231 and 9249 Farmington Avenue to the rear of 406 Farmington Avenue, SI zone. Interested parties are encouraged to participate in this online public hearing. The link to this meeting may be found on the Town of Farmington's website at the address listed on your screen. A copy of this proposal is also online at the address on the screen under public hearing documents or by calling the planning department at Farmington Town Hall at 860-675-2325. Dated at Farmington, Connecticut, this 18th day of November, 2021, Town Plan and Zoning Commission, Inez St. James, interim chair.
Thank you. Awesome. Before we get to the public hearings, we do have several new business items. The first item is an application from Mark Marzei. It's a site plan application for a facade improvement at 2 South Main Street. Now, Shannon, this one we're tabling?
That is correct. And we have received an extension from the applicant to table to January 24th.
Okay, 124. Okay, commissioners, we need a motion and a second, please.
Oh yeah, Patrick Carrier. I make the motion to table the site plan application by Mark Marzei for facade improvements at 2 South Main Street until the January 21st or 24th meeting. Is that what you said?
Correct.
Okay. Yep.
Second,
I
please.
second.
Thank you, Keith. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstention? All right, motion carries. So we're tabled with this item till the 24th of January, 2022. All right, next item is an application from Hal Johansson. This item is also being moved, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, and then January 10th or 24th?
10th,
10th, okay,
yes.
awesome. So commissioners, we will not be reviewing this one until January 10th, which is the first meeting in 2022. We need a motion and a second, please.
Oh, yeah, Patrick Carrier. I make a motion to table the site plan application by Hall Johansson to install ground-mounted solar array at 48 River Road until the January 10th meeting, 2022.
I second.
Thank you. Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? No abstentions. Okay, motion carries. All right, thank you. Next item is an application from Jennifer Bartis Early. And do we have someone presenting today? She's on, okay.
I'm here.
Okay.
Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good, thank you. If you can tell us why you're here, and then we.
For the record,
Go
for
ahead.
the record, my name is Jennifer Bardis Early, home address 74 South Washington Street, Plainville, representing the Vault Handcrafted Wellness and Apothecary LLC located at 12 Brick Walk Lane in Farmington as the owner agent. I'm requesting approval for an attached sign to replace the existing sign. The sign is 10.5 inches in height by 40 inches in length for a total of 2.92 square feet. The colors of the sign are black and white. The sign is made of wood with a protective glossy laminate. There will be no illumination for the sign.
Okay.
Does anyone have any questions?
All right, thank you very much, Jennifer. Let's go in order. Patrick, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Scott?
No questions.
Marcy?
No questions.
John?
No questions.
And Keith?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Jennifer. It sounds like we have everything that we needed. And according to the review agenda, this was already accepted by ADRC?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, ADRC reviewed it and concurred with the sign as presented, and it'll go to Farmington Historic District next Tuesday.
Mhm.
But they are independent reviews, so it doesn't preclude TPZ from acting this evening.
Sounds good. All right, let's vote on this item, please. As presented, who would like to make a motion and second to approve this application?
Oh, yeah, Patrick Carrier. I make a motion to approve the sign application by Jennifer Bardis Early for property located at 12 Brick Walk Lane, as presented.
Keith Bibbert, and I second.
Excellent, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think that's everyone, right? No opposition. Okay, application has been approved. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful holiday season.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. The next item is an application from Michael Fadio. And who's here?
I believe he is on the phone. Michael, are you on the line? I know I saw his name.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep, there you go.
Okay, sorry, I was having some trouble with my laptop.
No problem. Nope, you're all set. If you could go ahead and your name and address and present the sign for the commission, please.
Yep, my name is Mike Fadio. My home address is 1 West Ledge, Burlington, Connecticut. I'm here regarding property at 353 Scott Swamp Road. I'm currently a franchisee for a company called Detail Garage, which is an auto detailing supply company that provides, it's a retail outlet that provides auto detailing supplies, apparel, equipment, and things of that nature. This property is the former Valley Orthodontics building until they moved over on Plainville Ave. So I am proposing that I replace the existing sign that's on the building now with the updated, and I'm sorry, I can't see if you put the sign up on the screen. For some reason, I can't see it, but it's 2.5 by 10 feet. And the colors are red, black, and white with a black frame around it. the sign is not going to be illuminated. I believe on the agenda, it said that it was illuminated by external building lights, but that is not correct. There are no lights for this particular sign.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, commissioners, let's go through the attendees for questions. Patrick, you have any questions?
No questions.
Scott?
No questions, thanks.
Sure. Marcy?
No questions, Ines.
John?
No questions?
And Keith?
No questions, thank you.
Okay, pretty
Thank you.
straightforward. Actually, only question I have is, when is this business coming? Do you know?
Right now, I have a tentative grand opening date of March. It's not set in stone yet, but I believe it's going to be the middle of March.
Nice, okay, great.
Yes, I'm excited.
We are too, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. So we need to vote on this matter. I need a motion and a second, please.
Oh, yeah, Patrick Carrier, I make a motion to approve the sign application by Michael Thadio for property located at 353 Scott Swamp Road, as presented.
Keith Hibbert, second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, we're good. All right,
Thank-
application is approved.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, Shannon, I should probably ask you, is it okay that I'm just stating the applicants' names? Okay, perfect.
Yes.
All right, good.
Nope, we're fine.
Next item is an application from Barnes Property Development LLC. It's another sign application, and who do we have?
Hopefully Diane Barnes, are you on the phone? Yep. Diane, if you want to unmute your
There we go.
microphone. There you
Yep.
go. You can present your application to the commission. I've got the sign
Sure.
up on the screen for everybody.
Thank you. I'm Diane Barnes and my husband Gary Barnes, Barnes Property Development, and we own the building at 1533 New Britain Avenue. And we are proposing to replace the wooden sign that's been there for almost 40 years and is about to fall over with a new aluminum sign. And it would have space for the 4 tenants and the address. It's all made out of aluminum. It's about 8 inches wide and 5 feet tall, 5 feet by 5 feet for the sign itself. We submitted it with the drawing at 60, at just slightly over 6 feet, and we will make sure that it's under 6 feet. The light itself only extends about 2 inches up over that. We'll just reduce the amount of base underneath so that we're at 6 feet. And it is illuminated externally by a 2 strip lights that cantilever over the top of the sign and shine down onto the faces of the sign. It will be a 2-sided sign, and it is an LED light that is 7.2 watts and white in color, 800 lumens, and it's designed so that it will not shine in the eyes of cars and all going by. You won't be able to see either light. It kind of angles in towards the sun.
Down.
Was that a question for me?
No, I apologize if Diane, if just everyone that's called in, if you are not presenting, please mute your microphones, please. So not
And I
sure.
think if you scroll up to the next page of the application, or, yeah, that's the sign as it would look on the site. That's where the existing sign is, and which is this one that's about to fall over.
Yeah.
And if you scroll back to past the sketch with the dimensions there, this is the current tenants and what the sign would look like going in, minus the light bar. But the light bar would be below the height. Yeah, it would be just right across the top of that.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. Let's turn it over to the commissioners for questions. Patrick, you're first.
You said the light, I'm sorry, so the lights are going to actually be lower than 6 feet, or can you explain
Yes,
that?
they
one?
will. Yeah, it will be lower than 6 feet.
Okay, you're going to reduce the base and the lights will come down.
Yes.
No other questions for me. Thank you.
Thank you. How about Scott?
Do you have, what hours do you anticipate it's going to be illuminated?
It'll be illuminated from dusk until about 2 a.m. We have one tenant that works late and would like to have that illuminated. And, you know, I think just visibility is important to the tenants to have people know where their business is and have the community know where it is. But it'll go off at about 2 a.m.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Marcy, any
No
questions?
questions.
Okay. John
No questions.
and Keith.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Shannon, any concerns with the 2 a.m.?
Oh, no, given that it's a commercial area and
That's
it's
actually true, yeah.
downcast right to the sign at 800 lumens, it should not be an issue.
Okay.
Our street lights are 2,800 lumens well, just for, you know, to put it in
Comparison.
perspective,
Sure.
right?
And it, new signage looks like it's needed, so it looks good.
Right.
All right, let's take a vote. I need a motion and a second, please.
Yeah, Patrick Carrier. I make a motion to approve the sign application by Barnes Property Development LLC for property located at 1533 New Britain Avenue.
Keith Hibbert, I second.
All right, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent. All right, unanimous.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You got it. Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
You as well. Take care.
All right, bye-bye. All right, next item is an application from Main Gate Builders LLC. Jason's on, okay.
Jason, if you want to do a quick explanation to the commission of what you're looking for.
Good evening, staff and commission. Jason Levesque here. State my address.
Yes, please.
52 Climax Road, Simsbury, Connecticut. I am currently just asking for the commission to grant me a final 90-day filing extension for the Main Gate approve the subdivision to file the Mylars and what else am I on right now?
Yeah, that's okay. The easement documents.
Easement
The
documents,
and get the bond in place so that the
Yes.
Mylars can be filed.
Long day here. Apologies.
No problem. We're feeling it too.
Yeah. That is the short of it, and just wondering if the commission could grant that last 90-day filing extension.
Okay, thank you. All right, Patrick, do you have any questions?
You know, yeah, no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott?
No questions, thanks.
Marcy?
No questions, Ines.
All right, and John?
No questions.
And Keith?
No questions.
All right, this one was nice and easy and straightforward. All right, so we need a motion and a second to approve the application.
Patrick Carrier, I make a motion to approve the request for a 90-day extension by Main Gate Builders LLC to file subdivision documents for lot 9A1 Main Gate.
Keith Hibbert, I second.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think this, opposed, I think that was everyone, right? Yeah, okay, awesome. So you have, it's unanimous, Jason, for the 90-day extension.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item is an application from Robert Schlesinger, and it's for a text amendment,
Yeah, to accept it.
to accept the text amendment. Thank you.
No, that's okay.
Yep.
Yep.
So this is an easy one. Well, why, I don't know why I'm even saying it, sorry. I would like to get a motion and a second to accept this application.
Patrick Carrier, I make a motion to accept the application by Robert Schlesinger for a text amendment to Article 2, Section 1.B.5, Charitable and Philanthropic Institution, and schedule a public hearing with a recommended hearing date of January 10th, 2022.
All right,
Keith Hibbert, I second.
you got it. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
We are all set with this item. And the next one is an application from Town of Farmington for some tree removals. If I can have a motion and a second, please.
Yeah, Patrick Carrier. I make a motion to accept the application by the town of Farmington to remove 5 trees within the scenic road right-of-way designation on Old Mountain Road and schedule a public hearing with a recommended hearing date of January 10th, 2022.
Keith Weber, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. And the last new business item is an application from Alpine Energy LLC. And I need a motion and a second, please, to accept it.
Yeah, Patrick Carrier. I make a motion to accept the application by Alpine Energy LLC for special permit for change of use to specialty food market grocery store at 6 Park Road Place, B1 zone, with a recommended hearing date of January 10th, 2022.
Keith Weber, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. All right, that's it for new business, right, Shannon?
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, now we're moving to the public hearing portion of our meeting. This is where the applicant presents to the commission the application. Commissions have an opportunity to ask questions. And when that portion is done, the public has a chance to speak, ask questions regarding the application, and then there is a vote. So the first item that we have in front of us is an application from Philip J. Guglielmo. It's an application for special permit to expand a home in excess of 30%. And who do we
I
have?
believe Phil is on the call.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Can you give the commission a brief explanation of what you are looking to do, please?
I'm Phil Guglielmo. I own the house at 404 Main Street, and I'm trying to make an expansion off the rear of the house, roughly 780 square feet. It's all one level. There will be a basement. It will entail having a bedroom, master bath, and a family room. At the moment, it's a 4-room cape. It has 2 bedrooms and 1 bath. The master bedroom is right in the front of the house and by Main Street. And I'm trying to use the rear of my house and rear of my yard to get a little away from the street.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, commissioners, we're going to turn it to you for questions. Patrick?
No questions at this moment.
Okay, Scott?
Yeah, no questions here either right now. Thank you.
Sure. Marcy?
No, I have no questions, actually.
All right. How about you, John?
No questions?
And Keith?
No questions, thank you.
Okay. Philip, I just want to it looks like, of course, it's a public hearing. Communication was done. Have you heard from any of your neighbors?
Yes, I sent out the letters to them all, and I talked to 2 of them the other day, and there doesn't seem, not all the letters were returned, but there doesn't seem to be any concern.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, it looks like a nice addition. Let's see here. So commissioners, we're all set. So it is a public hearing now. Let's turn it over to the public. If anyone on the line wants to speak in favor, opposition, ask questions of the applicant, this is your chance. So Shannon, if you want to take over.
Sure. So anyone that's called in, if you wish to address the commission regarding this application, please raise your hand using the feature in Zoom. And then you will be acknowledged and permitted to address the commission. Okay, one more time. If you're interested in speaking regarding this application, please raise your hand using the feature in Zoom so that you may address the commission. Madam Chair, I'm not seeing any indication that anyone wishes to speak on this.
Thank you. Commissioners, one last time, do you have any questions? Do you have enough information to take a vote?
Ready to take a vote.
Okay, awesome. All right, so at this point, let me close the public hearing on this matter, and I need a motion and a second, please, on this application.
Yeah, Patrick Carrier, I make a motion to accept the application by Philip J. Guglielmo for special permit for expansion of home in excess of 30% of finished living area at 404 Main Street in an R20 zone.
Keith Hibbert, I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Looks like unanimous. So motion carries. Philip, you are all set. Your application has been approved.
Okay, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank
Have a
you.
great night.
Thank you for calling in.
Thank you. Shannon, applicants know that the town is going to connect with them, or do we need to tell them?
No, they know, and
Okay.
generally they call, and this one there was a building permit. So what'll happen is tomorrow we'll start, tomorrow, the next day, start taking care of the building permit paperwork. So
Sounds good.
yeah,
Thank
we're
you.
set. Thank you.
All right, the next item is an application from Robert Schlesinger Jr., ASLA. It's an application for special permit and site plan application for charitable and philanthropic use, partial demolition of barn and parking dimensions for property located at 119 Copper Mine Road, R40 zone. And
I believe we have Biff Schlesinger on the phone. Biff, are you taking the lead with this presentation this evening?
I'll do the overview and do all the zoning. With me is Evan Cole, Steve Nelson, and Kate Grady Benson, who will talk about functions of the facility. Why don't I go through all the zoning aspects first for the site plan, and then we can we'll let them talk, and then we'll go to questions. Does that sound all right?
yes, thank you.
Super. Hi, I'm Biff Schlesinger. I'm a licensed landscape architect in the state of Connecticut. What we're proposing, it's the Wilcox Bushley homestead here, which is the main part, and there's there's a barn with it as well in the back. Both the structure, the main residence, and the barn itself are non-conforming solely because they both protrude into their respective front yard setbacks. Our proposal is not going to increase or change that, not increasing the non-conformity. So that just for that edification on that item. Basically, the demo permit is to take off what would be the western 440 square feet of the barn, which is already in great disrepair and falling apart, as well as about 80 square feet on the northwest corner of the building, which will be made into a porch. Now you can see on the demo page there we go. That part of the barn, and then if you go over to the north end, right in there, we're taking a little 1-story, 80+ square foot, 1-story shed roofed it looks like an addition to the building, and making that covered porch and making that an access way down to the back, and also the social space we're proposing of dry laid pavers. So the demo is required as a special permit for this because of the historic nature of the buildings. Again, we're trying to save as much of the building and using the original post and beam construction for renovation. The far western end of it is just deemed to be too deteriorated to functionally rebuild. So we figure even with the 760 some square feet or whatever we have on that, it's over in the mid 700 square feet. We can utilize it for maintenance, service, have an enclosed area for activity space, and they'll get into what those activities would be, but they're an adjunct because it's surrounded by 43 acres of the West District Preserve, which is land trust land. So this will now become their headquarters and their office, and also areas where they get education on, on forest management or field management and things. So it right now it has no parking per se. We're proposing, given the use, we're required to have 10 parking spaces. We're proposing 12, including 1 handicap. We're going to pave the parking adjacent to the building with bituminous, and also we're paving bituminous as an apron within the town right of way to Copper Mine Road. The rest of it we're doing in gravel, and we're requesting a consideration for that, which you can do as a vote as a part of a special permit vote under the use of pervious materials to protect the environment. So and also other areas that we like the nature of it. It fits with the style and also the era of the building when it was built. So, and we think that environmentally, we have a big flat site. We're sheet flowing everything into a big open field area that we already have as part of preserve. The town thinks that's a prudent and low impact development strategy to follow, which we've pursued. So we're adding dry laid pavers to the north of the barn as an outdoor space. And again, they're dry laid on stone dust with edgings. There'll be precast pavers that they'll sell bricks as a way of raising funding, like we do at the First Church and a lot of other places do as well. The biggest thing, and also as you can see the landscape, and we're adding sugar, sweet gum, sugar maple, and red maples, as well as some ornamental trees. We have bloodgood maple and stewardias here that'll all bloom. They're all native. And we're maintaining all the trees that are mature and also in good shape, especially the big maple right to the southeast corner of the building. Now that over down here, the southeast, down by the entry drive, as well. Instead of having one tree per 10 spaces, we have two trees per one tree per 2 spaces. We also have 40% landscape within the parking area versus the 10% required. We're also asking for, if you see out in front, there's a little thing, we have a sign that we're asking for approval on. It's included with the detail. We have 12 square feet, not the full contingency on, should be sheet, the last detail, second to last detail sheet, I think. There we go. With all the text, and we met with the town, and we weren't going to have ground mounted little spots, but because of snow and everything, actually, you can see on the section there, we actually have armatures with down lighting for that as well. If you go further to the right on that sheet, Shannon, that's it, and up, there we go. We have a very residential scale lighting. We have 5, I believe we have 5 units. They're only 8.5 feet high. Of course, they're full cutoff, totally recessed LED light within the top of the carriage lamp. So you can see it in scale with a human here. So that's part of the application as well. Now, we talked about demolition of the use. We need a special permit, obviously, for the use. We're going to a charitable and philanthropic organization, and I say this will be now the Farmington Land Trust headquarters. And then we're also, you know about the demolition, but I'm going to get into the gravel, again, as a historic use and also lower impact for development. And also other places do have gravel or composite drives, like, always get the one. Evan, what's the name of the place on Main Street that the Yale has? The Walpole. They have a composite gravel driveway as well, and several other places do. And this also fits into the character of this. Now, if you're confused on the parking special permits, I'm going to ask. We are allowed to go, instead of the 20, 23, and 20 standard parking design for a double loaded driveway. You can go 18, 24, and 18, which is a composite of 60 feet, which you can get, which I've never not gotten in this town because it saves 3 feet of pavement. You don't need it if it works. What we're asking is for 60 feet, as you can see from the double loaded side of the parking, we're asking for 60 feet. But because we have a 20-foot driveway coming in to here and serving 20-foot deep, those 3 parking spaces in front for staff for the office, we're asking that you can waive this under the parking lot thing, a modification of parking requirements for the protection of historic features. We're asking for 20, 20, and 20 for 20-foot deep parking, 20-foot drive aisle, and 20-foot deep parking. We're within that 60-foot leeway that you do allow by a majority vote, but we're using the 20-foot basically. We leave the 20-foot so it stays consistent all the way through the site. We believe this is reasonable given the amount of limited traffic that'll be there. It almost always will never be full because that's for when they have their full meetings, et cetera, there. A lot of the programs they do, and they'll explain it later in concert with the West District School, they wouldn't be bringing buses or anything in here. Again, this is more for the staff and then for the meetings when they do have a full commission meeting and they have, when they have their educational programs and things of that nature for the Land Trust Committee. And that's why we're asking for all if they see labyrinthian for all the special permits where conditions we're requesting, that's pretty much an overview of them. So why don't we go to the color rendering for a second. Thank you. So the big elements are, we have pavement apron to copper mine, then we go into a gravel, and with the extra parking for when they have big committee meetings to the south there. Then we pave with a handicap space and some parking there, as well as the parking into the open bay of the barn, and then the 3 staff parking spaces. We're going to have a concrete walkway all the way around to the front entry, as well as the side entry here. We have a new handicap ramp coming up over the existing and bringing the deck out, and then refurbishing the covered porch there. And then if you go to the north end of the building, we now have a covered porch where there's a lean-to 80 square foot building appurtenance was, and a sidewalk paved down to hopefully the social space that they're going to have a dry laid pavers there. And we're going to utilize the existing well and the existing septic field. They're being engineered right now and reviewed. They have to go through all the health district requirements as well as any other prevailing town requirements for that. So that is our application for the zoning aspect. Now, Evan would like to speak, and also Kate Grady Benson will also talk about the functions of why we're building this and what activities will be supported by this facility.
Thank you.
Thanks, Biff. Evan Coles, 148 Main Street. I'm Vice President of the Farmington Land Trust. We've written extensively about this project in our last 2 newsletters. And so if you want to go into depth, go to our newsletters. They're online. So I'm just going to give some of the highlights of what we have here. In 1995, Mary and Ruth Bushley donated the West District Nature Preserve, 24 acres. I'm correcting Biff's 43 acres. It's 24 acres. We've been using that for years now. Over their lifetime, the Bushley women, saw almost all of the 250 acres of their farm, their family farm, sold off, and just became totally interested in preserving the remaining piece of farmland and woodland that they still owned. So in 2013, they gave the remaining land, the barns, and their early 19th century house to the Farmington Land Trust, with Mary retaining life use of the house until her death in the spring of 2019, and just over 2 years ago. Land Trust really thought long and hard what to do with this property. We really didn't want to tear down that house. We got pressure from a number of leaders in town saying, try and keep that house. We were a little reluctant to renovate it into our headquarters because of the cost, but the Bushley family left us with a small bequest. Actually, was a healthy bequest, and we've fundraised since then and raised enough money to do this project. We still have a long ways to go to raise the full amount we want. In any case, what we decided to do was create our office. We're now renting in the Canal House on Garden Street, an environmental center, and a small apartment. Now, we're not applying for the apartment now until we get the text change. If you choose to approve it in January, we'll come in front of you again for the apartment. I just mentioned that's not in tonight's application, but you need to see the whole picture. It might be helpful for you to see the whole picture.
I'm going to add as a sidebar on this that the parking requirements, if we do add that component, our parking still, there's no change to the plan will be needed to meet all the zoning requirements for that change, but we'll get into that next month.
Correct. So we have our offices. We have a large room for programming. We have a climate-controlled archival storage where we'll be storing our archives. The Land Trust has to keep all the archives of its properties, and then 150 years of the Bushley family history, which I won't go into, but it's fascinating. They never threw anything out. We had to spend a year and a half going through and archiving the stuff that we found valuable. So we end up with not just stewarding the land, but also stewarding the family Farmington family that lived on this land and sustained themselves for about 4 generations. And so the relationship of the family to this land is really important for the land trust to tell this story too. So we're keeping the exterior farmhouse appearance. The barns, we are asking for this demolition because that shed actually is falling down. I believe you got in your package some photographs of the shed with holes in the roof. But we are going to be able to reuse some of the timber in the part we're taking down to reconstruct the rest of the shed. So this will help us keep the look of the rest of the shed. In fact, we're trying to make this whole building a green construction with solar panels and highly insulated. We're trying to get grants for some geothermal heating. We'd like to make this a real gold star conservation oriented project consistent with the land trust philosophy.
Thank you. Wow, sounds great.
Yeah, on that note, I'm going to turn this over to Kate, who's going to talk a little bit about the programming that we're doing on the property now. We're doing on all our properties, and we hope to continue to do.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kate Grady Benson. I live at 32 Mountain Road in Farmington, Connecticut. I am the executive director of the Farmington Land Trust. Prior to becoming the ED, I served for 6 years on the board as the development chair. As a nonprofit organization, it's important to share our story with the community and to provide opportunities for learning about the many ways our open space benefits all. One of the Land Trust core values is education. We develop a yearly program calendar that offers naturalist hikes, regenerative farming practices, yoga, birding, full moon snowshoeing, pollinator lectures, just to name a few. Our calendar for 2022 will have several family-friendly programs on our various properties. We try to do these programs really on site so that people actually get the full experience and also see what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it. These programs happen once per month and on a weekend. When they're located on the West District Nature Preserve or at the Wilcox Bushley, we do arrange permission with the town through the Farmington Public School System to use the West District School parking lot. So we get permission, the appropriate permissions that are necessary. So it keeps us from having to have people park on the land. And that works really well. We typically limit the number of participants and we require registering to attend. So we know how many people are coming. It's well controlled. People sign in and it's, they're accompanied by land trust people while they're on the land. With its pristine wooded preserve, ponds, a field, it's the perfect place to do our programs about the benefits of nature for our health and the planet. The 24 acres of West District Nature Preserve is perfectly positioned for the West District Elementary School across the street. We've already had the kindergartners walking across the street accompanied by teachers and others to have them come on the land, learn about pollinators, plants, animals, really experience the health benefits of being in nature. And one of the comments that I received from one of the teachers was that when she was able to compare the behavioral issues that she had at the beginning of the school year to the end of the school year, there was a dramatic difference in that. It really has a major calming effect and also actually stimulates creativity, etc. These visits are pre-arranged and chaperoned. We're currently working with the Farmington Public Schools to provide properties for their experiential outdoor education, which is a burgeoning area that they're looking into now. COVID has kind of moved that along. for elementary schools and also for the other levels of schools. And we hope to provide opportunities for all grade levels on a variety of our properties, not just here at the Wilcox-Bushley. With the renovation of the farmhouse and the adjacent barns, we hope to offer opportunities for teachers to have space to do some hands-on projects with the kids in either the barn or the indoor project space that Evan talked about. It'll also be an ideal location for some of our monthly programs, which, we mix it up. We have adult, programs, and we have family programs and all kinds of things. So it'll be a great space for that. Another important responsibility of the Land Trust is to raise money to support the stewardship of our 67 properties. We also have 2 part-time employees, myself included, and also need to maintain the property. The stewardship of the property is crucial. It's our mission, stewarding this property. And this can include mowing, tree removal and trimming, trail maintenance, invasive removal. We raise money in a variety of ways, membership drives, grants, and fundraising events. And so on the Wilcox-Bushley, actually, it's on the West District Nature Preserve. If you really look at the property, we have hosted 2 different large fundraising events over the last 5 years. And, we got the appropriate permits from the town, et cetera, very controlled. People purchase tickets, and they're held in an earlier time in the night. And we do plan on doing another one of these this coming spring on May 1st. It'll be a family-friendly event on a Sunday. And again, people have to buy tickets. We know how many people. We limit the access, and then we get the appropriate permits and approvals from the town. Other things that we'll be doing is having our office there, of course. And our hope is that having our office there will allow us, one, to be able to continue our mission of stewarding this property and preserving this historic home, but also for our ability to host these projects that allow people to not only get out on the land, but understand the importance of open space and also the preservation of it, particularly with the effects of climate change as we go forward. And we're looking forward to being able to do that. So thank you.
Also, Shannon, can you go to the first L1 of the package? There we go. In support of what Kate was saying, one of the long range plans, yeah, thank you. One of the long range plans, we included this on the context map as well, as in the future, we're going to try and develop a safer, since they do, they're trying to, the proponents, and they have a great relationship and burgeoning programs with the West District School. We're talking about instituting soon, or eventually when funding is available, a sidewalk crossing, and then a new sidewalk. There is no sidewalk on the side, and eventually future plans are to bring a sidewalk there for the safe pedestrian interaction from the school to the office building.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I think it's a fabulous project. Your presentation was comprehensive. We really appreciate it. I'm very visual, so I love the color picture. Thank you. And it's so neat that it's near an elementary school. I just think it's fabulous. Anyway, it is a public hearing, excuse me, not just my meeting. Commissioners, this is our chance to ask questions. Let's start with you, Patrick, for this group.
I agree. I mean, it sounds like a great project. Yeah, no questions. I pretty much understood everything, and it looks great.
Okay, thank you. How about you, Scott?
No, I agree. I think it looks great. I particularly like the reuse of materials. That's always good to see. I think the project is wonderful.
Okay, thank you. And Marzei?
Well, I have to agree with my fellow delegates. It looks like a great project, and it is. I have attended some of the events on the properties, and it's absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. And John?
So I agree with all the things that have been said before. I think it looks like a good project. One little minor piece that I'd like to ask a question about is on that last slide, which showed the sidewalk. And my question is there a reason why the crosswalk is on the other side of West District Road and not on the side of the school?
I believe because there's sidewalks on that side of the road. I guess we right now there's no sidewalk on that side.
So it would seem to me that in the future, when this sidewalking becomes a project, you might want to think about putting a sidewalk on the West District school side of the street so that the students don't have to cross West District Road just to get to the sidewalk. Just a small point, and it has nothing to do
No,
with what you're asking.
it's a good idea.
No further questions?
Thank you, John. And Keith?
I have no questions. I actually had the same thought about the sidewalks. That's a really narrow road as you come up to West District Road. So it'll be interesting to see where that fits in, but I think the project looks great and a great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't have any questions about this project. It sounded like maybe similar projects will be coming around town by Land Trust, or am I totally misunderstanding that?
I think if you're referring to what Evan was talking about, we eventually were looking to pursue having an apartment as part of this proposal, but it wasn't available in the allowed by the text and the zoning requirements that exist now. That's hence why you also voted to hear this text change next month. That would be the last piece of this, is to have an apartment as part of it wouldn't change the building envelope or anything. It's just part of the upstairs would now be made into a self-contained apartment. And there's all sorts of historic precedent in town under charitable and philanthropic uses that do have an apartment or more on site as part of the maintenance of it, and as a feature that has been set as precedent in town. So we'll come back to you on that. That's the element that you were referring to.
Thank you, Bill. It was more a curiosity. I was wondering if you were thinking of joining efforts in the areas that where the other elementary schools are. That's all. It just seems like a fantastic opportunity.
Oh, maybe I could
Sure.
touch on that a second. We do have a project going on right now with Noah Wallace. We have a property near Noah Wallace called the Bull Lot, and we're allowing access for the students at Noah Wallace to go over for some experiential learning on the land. And that's going to be starting this actually winter. So we've been talking to all the school systems and trying to figure out what works for all the different schools based on where our land is located and what's appropriate for them to get to without having to bus or whatever. So those are discussions that are ongoing.
That's awesome. I love that. Thank you. Oh, awesome. All right. So thank you for the presentation. Thank you, commissioners, for your comments and questions. This is a public hearing. So if anyone's on the line, if you want to ask any questions, make a comment, this is your chance.
Okay. Madam Chair, I want to make note for the record, we did receive 2 written letters of correspondence with respect to this application. The first one is on the screen and was sent to the commission and was shared with the applicant. This is from the Unionville Historic District and Properties Commission. It was reviewed at their meeting last week, and the project discussed with them, and they voted unanimously to issue this letter of support for the project. They were thrilled to know that some of the wood from the portion of the barn that has to be demolished is going to be repurposed in some of the restoration efforts in the remaining portion of the barn and home.
Okay.
And then we received this second, it was an email correspondence from Timothy Smith. Again, this is in support of this application, and this was also distributed earlier today.
Okay,
so those are the 2 written correspondence that we received. And then I will, as we did before for the first public hearing, if anyone has called on and logged into this meeting, to please raise your hand via Zoom. And you will be acknowledged to address the commission with any comments or questions that you may have regarding the land trust application. And I see we've got one. Okay, Mr. Calciano, you can go ahead and unmute your microphone and please address the commission.
Yes, my name is Jim Calciano, 33 Mountain Road. I am not only a member of the Land Trust, but also one of the board members. This project has been a long time in coming. What's amazing about it is that it truly is beneficial to Unionville and Farmington in itself. I mean, this is an old farm. It's just sat there by itself for years and years, and looking very sad over the years. And we've started to do work on it to bring it back to life. And not only it's part of the West District Preserve, but this is adjacent to the 80-acre town farm. So there's just incredible potential in the future for merging trails. The building is probably somewhere around 1830. We're not quite sure. A lot of work is going to be going into this project. So I'm really happy to be part of it, and I hope everyone feels the same way. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else?
Okay, anyone else wishing to make a comment regarding this application, please raise your hand using the feature in Zoom, and you'll be acknowledged to address the commission. Last call. Okay, Madam Chair, I don't see any other hands raised.
Thank you. Commissioners, any final questions that you have for the applicant? All right, I will close the public hearing on this matter. And Shannon, is it okay that we vote, like, there are pieces, right, to it?
It can be done as one motion. It does not have to be done as separate, unless there's something the commission had a concern with, and then you might want to pull that element out, but
I
otherwise.
hope everyone heard that. So recommendation is we vote on this project, on this application. We do one motion, one vote, unless you feel differently, commissioners. So we need a motion and a second, please.
Yeah, Patrick Carrier. I make the motion to approve the application by Robert Schlesinger Jr., ASLA, for special permits and site plan application for charitable and philanthropic use, partial demolition of barn and parking dimensions for property located at 119 Coppermine Road in an R40 zone. As presented.
Keith Libber, I second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? We're good? Okay. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposition? I think we got everyone on the line. All right. So unanimous approval for this application. How exciting.
Yeah, thank you very much for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You
Have a
too.
good
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And the last public hearing item that we have tonight is application from 402 Farmington Avenue, LLC.
Yes, and I believe, I'm not sure, we've got Kyle Richards and Ben Tripp on the phone. I'm not sure which one's taking the lead this evening.
Hi, Shannon, can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Kyle Richards, thank you. All right, good evening to the commission. For the record, again, my name is Kyle Richards from the Metro Realty Group. I'm joined by Ben Tripp, as Shannon mentioned, also from Metro, and attorney Andrea Gomes from Hinckley Allen. I'll try and be as brief as possible, but we were in front of this commission about a month ago, November 8th, to discuss the modification of several conditions of for the multifamily community located at 402 Farmington Avenue. One of those proposed modifications relating to disallowing rooftop access for residents was discussed by this commission, and while no concerns were expressed, it was appropriately determined that notice be sent and a public hearing be held, which is why we're here tonight. So as I described in our last meeting, we remain pretty unclear as to why access to the roof deck was denied. It was frustrating that it was entirely prohibited and added as a condition after the public hearing had closed without any discussion. And thus we weren't presented with the opportunity to understand the concern, and perhaps offer an explanation or any mitigation to the extent it was necessary. So I believe I presented that, so I'll take the blame for not describing the roof deck adequately the first time around. But with that, now I'd like to spend a few minutes to illustrate exactly what this roof deck is, why we feel it's very important to the success of this community, and probably most importantly, how it'll be operated. If you could jump 2 slides, Shannon, please. Yep, that one, thanks. So the roof deck is the 2,900 square foot area shown in blue on your screen. And it's located on the southeast corner of the building, which is the Farmington Avenue side of the building. Next slide, please, Shannon. Per code and ADA requirements, 2 staircases and an elevator are required to provide access to the roof deck and are depicted in the yellow on the plan that you're looking at. And from a design standpoint, we strategically located the roof deck on the Farmington Avenue side, opposite from the residences, to utilize that approximately 9-foot staircases and elevator shaft as a further barrier. And as differentiated from the main outdoor common space, which is this, recall it's the large central courtyard that you see on your screen, which is at ground level and visible from the windows and balconies of the interior apartments. We expect this roof deck to be, an outdoor space for residents seeking a more private setting, whether they're, studying or sunbathing, or just the personal preference is to not be on display. So the roof deck it'll be available to residents and staff only, and it will be controlled by a fob system with the time clock to restrict after-hour access. There will be no speaker system installed and no equipment that would generate considerable noise. The rules of the roof deck will be included in every resident's lease, and there will be security cameras to ensure enforcement of the policies. I'll conclude with that, lastly, we really feel that the success of this community is in all of our best interest. And while we really hate to bother this commission with another request on this application, believe me, we feel very strongly that this more private outdoor amenity space is critical in the marketability and really to make 402 Farmington this top-class community that we strive for. So with that, I'll pause and I'm available as the rest of the group are for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So no further presentation, no Ben or anything, right?
No, the rest of your team doesn't have a presentation portion, correct, Kyle? They're just there if there's questions.
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, commissioners, this is our chance to ask any questions, clarifications from everything we've heard about this project, specific to the roof deck amenity. Patrick, you go first.
Yeah, so what kind of changes are in place? Like, what's the difference between the rooftop amenity now, or whatever you call that, access to the rooftop, and what it was before? I know there was a size, I had asked that last time, but like, what about the time, accessibility? What changes have you made? Is it still being utilized like it was going to be in the beginning, or can you explain that?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So the location changed. Originally, as you recall, this building changed. It was originally kind of a U-shaped building, and it was 4 stories. And the location of it was on the end. It's not depicted on here because, of course, this is the revised building that became enclosed and reduced to 3 stories. But we did move the location of it closer to the corner on Farmington Avenue. And the size of it is generally the same. I don't know precisely, but it's generally the same size, just under 3,000 square feet. So, we intend to police this the same way we police all of our common area outdoor spaces. At Colt Highway, at 299 Colt Highway, there's very large outdoor common areas that, we monitor closely with cameras and have rules and regulations in every tenant's lease. So those types of spaces are not, are very common, outdoor common spaces. And we've had at Colt Highway, we've had absolutely no issue from any of the adjacent premises, any of the adjacent premises, or internally any conflict associated with these types of outdoor areas.
Okay, and just so it's clear, so the level that you're standing on when you're standing on this rooftop, it's not like you're climbing on the roof of the actual building. You're basically removing a section of the building, taking the roof off, and it's at the same level. Is that correct? Right, as the rest of the 3rd floor. So it's on the 3rd floor. It's not up on top of the roof of the 3rd floor.
Would you be able to go to the next slide, Shannon? So to answer your question, it is on the 3rd floor. The effectively the floor of the roof deck is the ceiling of the 3rd floor. So this is on the roof of a 3-story building. And as you can see on the top, you can generally where Shannon's cursor is, and then you can see the 2 the elevator shaft and the staircases are the projections up. But the floor of the roof deck is on top of the above the 3rd floor.
Okay, and how high does that elevator there? It looks about half a story. Like, let's say you're standing. Are you able to see? Are you seeing over that elevator shaft? No, that wouldn't make any sense, right? You got to get in it. So I'm assuming that's.
So it's around 9 to 10 feet tall. You can see the glass. You can see Shannon. If you go left with your cursor, you can see the entry doors. Those are generally around 7 feet in height. So it's a few feet taller than that.
Okay, so it's basically, so that section, that elevator shaft and that stairwell pretty much runs the length. So when you're standing let's say you're standing on this rooftop, can you see the other homes? Or I know what side it's on. So it appears that it pretty much blocks everything off, all visibility.
We designed it intentionally to provide a screen. You have many options where you locate staircases. By design, we located them where you're looking at to provide a further buffer from the surroundings. Where Shannon has her cursor, there's a staircase and an elevator shaft, and then if you bring your cursor a little bit to the south there, that's a secondary elevator, secondary staircase rather, for secondary egress. But by design, we located the roof deck on the opposite side of those visual obstructions, if you will, to do just that.
And previously, was it your intention to have a speaker system up there? Or were you never going to have like a speaker system? I'm assuming the speaker system is nothing more than radio, right? Were you ever going to have that in the beginning and you're removing that, or you never were intending on having that?
No, we never were intending to have that. I mean, as a practical matter, it's in everyone's interest that this is a quiet and a tame common space. It's from a building manager's perspective alone, it is not, and you know, we would not be, it would not be appreciated by any of the residents if somehow this were, you know, speakers blaring and unruly folks and the things that, you know, we're all fearful of. That is not our objective here. You know, generally the types of residents who populate these buildings are respectful, they're quiet, and to the extent there are residents that don't abide by those rules, we're very quick to enforce. So no, there was never a speaker system intended. And again, the intention of this space is, and keep in mind in New England, I mean, it's not going to be a year-round thing, right? It's going to be, there are going to be limited months that it's available, or that anyone would even want to go outside and hang out up there, you know, primarily the summer months. But the intention is to keep it as tame as possible, frankly, because it's in our own interest to make sure it operates that way.
And one last question. So you just mentioned months. When it snows, I'm assuming you're still maintaining this thing, or is it closed when it snows? Like when it's actively got snow on it, I mean, you know?
Yeah, we will be maintaining it. I mean, there won't be a roof over it, so that'll, you know, we'll have to appropriately maintain the area.
Okay, no more questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Scott?
Yeah, thanks, Inez. So Kyle, what were the hours on it? I know you talked about no after hours. I think you said no after hours access. What kind of hours are you thinking about for this?
We intend to restrict access after 10 p.m.
Okay. And then I guess I still have some concerns about enforcement, and I know you've talked a lot about it. Can you tell me more about what that looks like, how you would enforce it? Is it more passive, so does it require a complaint per se, or are people actively monitoring those cameras in the space during the hours that it's open? Can you explain that a little bit more?
Well, there will be, for all of our camera systems, we have remote access that can be monitored at any time from anywhere. But as it relates to, I guess your question is, you know, for starters, again, we have these types of common spaces, and I can't even remember the last time where there was some sort of issue relating to a resident in a common space. But to the extent there was, you know, there can be fines issued. There could be, I mean, in the worst case scenario, you could move to, you know, evict a tenant, or you could perhaps not renew their lease. It's very, very infrequent that you know, and I don't think that it would come to that, but you know, you do have the cameras, you do police it in the event there is an incident, and you're able to kind of either at the time or after the fact look at the footage and see if there actually was an infraction. But trust me when I tell you, it's very infrequent. And as it relates to, you know, if you look at the log with respect to 299 Farmington, I mean, there has not been a single complaint from the adjacent residences ever. And, you know, so we appreciate the likelihood that it could happen, and that's why you have the cameras and you have staff, but it's highly unlikely.
Thanks. Do you have any kind of like rooftop space like this anywhere else? Or is this unique to this property?
That's unique to this property.
Okay. And lighting up there, is it Is it it must be lit if it's available till 10 p.m.?
Yes, there will be lights.
Okay. I think that's it right now. Thanks, Kyle.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Marcy?
Yeah, thank you, Inez. I'm gonna guess that there are gonna be rules posted as people enter, so that that's very clear, or in the building bylaws and those kinds of things that keep it at a reasonable function. I guess my one question, I love the chairs and all that nice stuff. I'm assuming no fire pits or any of that kind of activity.
Oh, fire pits. The space hasn't been completely designed.
Yeah.
If this commission feels strongly that they're, do you have a particular concern relating to the fire pits?
I just don't know that there's any kind of town ruling, so I just bring it up in case that does exist, and that's something that wants to, that we want to address as part of this approval process.
Well, what I'd say is if the design does incorporate any sort of fire pit, we would be happy to vet it, of course, with staff, but also with the fire marshal. Of course, to make sure that it's done properly and safely, and it adheres to all town standards.
Okay. All right. I have no further questions, and thank you.
Thank you, Marcy. All right, John, you're next.
Kyle, you made some reference to the residents of each of the apartments having some regulations presented to them. With material presented to the tenants, would it control the volume of music that they could put onto the rooftop?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the town of Farmington has specific noise ordinances that we intend to adhere to, as we do in all of our properties. So I would probably, yes, they must conduct themselves in a quiet fashion, but it's hard to gauge, right? And with respect to the threshold, I would point to the town's noise ordinance standard, which we intend to adhere to, and we will expect all of the residents of the community to also adhere to.
The way you've laid out this area, it seemed like it would be a good place for people to sit down and have quiet times. And I'm sure they would not appreciate people coming up with a boombox and putting them up to the level that the town allows. So I'm assuming that the people would be given some sort of direction as to making sure that they keep the music to a level appropriate for the space.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Sorry, you're all set, John?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And Keith?
I have a couple of things. One was Kyle had made mention in the beginning that they were unsure of why this was not allowed in the initial design. And to my recollection on that meeting, it was a concession essentially for the residents of Prattling Pond. I mean, as everybody knows, this was like a very debated amongst the residents. I mean, there was a lot of push against this project by people that are already in the area. And so we did things like asking for additional trees and a sidewalk on Farmington Avenue, knocking down one of the stories off the building, and then also eliminating this rooftop deck because of concerns that residents had expressly said about noise, light pollution, and I think those were the two main ones. Personally, as I see the design of it, I don't really think that that's going to be a problem. However, I would go back to what Marcy said about fire pits. You know, would there be, other questions are, would there be smoking allowed on the rooftop deck? Would there be a community grill on top of the rooftop deck? You know, how much I don't know, I guess I'll ask those two questions first, smoking and or community grill. I guess you're going to tell me that that goes back to rules for Farmington probably, right?
Well, as it relates to smoking, no, that would not be permitted.
Okay.
For sure. Grills, we would intend to put a grill up there, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I agree from this. I mean, I guess this will go into discussion, so I won't pontificate any further than that. I just would again reference the reason that we had as a commission, I think, not allowed the rooftop deck initially was as a concession to concerned residents of the areas, the new neighbors of this development. So when we get to the discussion phase, I guess we can talk about that as a commission a little bit more. So I'm good from there.
Okay,
Thank you.
I do not have any new questions that were already raised. So let's open this up to the public.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, Madam Chair, we have a few items of written correspondence that were received prior to the meeting on the screen, and I believe shared with the commission. An applicant prior to the meeting was an email received from Joanne Lawson of 9 Prattling Pond Road expressing opposition to this this current application for the rooftop amenity. And sorry, that's something else. And then we received a letter from Attorney Shansky, which is also shared with the commission and the applicant in opposition. Attorney Shansky on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Zaytujan. And that letter is on the screen and entered into the record. I also believe these parties are on the phone, and they did, as part of their written correspondence, share photographs with the commission of the current of their current state with respect to this project.
Okay. And I'm sure there'll be other folks on the phone, right?
There are. I just thought I'll scroll through. That's the last photo. I just wanted to scroll through the photos so that everything was captured into the record.
Thank you. But this meeting is about the rooftop deck, all right?
It is correct. Yes. So I believe the letter touches on a number of things. Correct. The meeting is about the rooftop deck. So with that, anyone that has called in, if you would like to address the commission, please raise your hand and you will be called upon to make comments to the commission. And we have Mr. Fitchman is up. If you would like to address the commission, Mr. Fitchman, you can unmute your microphone. And with all people making comment, please your full name and address, and then direct your questions and comments to the commission. Thank you.
Hi, this is Richard Fitchman. My address and my wife's and family's address is 38 Prattling Pond Road in Farmington. I was enjoying the presentation from the Farmington Land Trust, and I found the juxtaposition between this particular item and theirs very, very interesting. This was a 24-acre parcel, and they want to limit very nice and positive things that have nothing to do with making money, but in fact have to do with making Farmington more pristine and more rural. They want to limit all those activities to the early evening on 24 acres of land. And that is juxtaposed to this development, which is being built in the backyard of some neighbors on Prattling Pond Road. And I find it interesting that this roof deck, noise is not unidirectional. Noise is omnidirectional. And if people are up there, just having fun, I've heard tell that people occasionally drink some alcohol and sometimes have loud conversations and laugh and get a little bit giddy. Those types of activities until 10 o'clock at night. I'm a surgeon. I generally go to bed somewhere between 8 and 9 every night. They're bound to eventually get a little bit noisier than one had intended, and just the fact that there happens to be a barrier on one particular part. This is a very elevated building in comparison to the structures around, so there's no tree buffers. Noise is going to carry. And it's just going to create more problems and humiliate us even more and make our lives even less pleasurable. I don't know if any of you folks on the commission or anyone listening have ever lived near a party deck, but I don't think it's anything that anybody really longs to do. I think it's interesting that this very successful corporation with very high-end apartments, this is their first venture into the party deck world, and happens to be in our backyards in an area that wasn't previously zoned for this, but was approved by the commission. So I just think all in all, it's kind of putting, you know, Metro Realty is very successful. They've done nice projects. They obviously won this. It's gonna be a very profitable building. I don't know why they need to put their, I'm sorry to say it, their foot on our throats now and try and get this one last thing. If the financial viability of this project depends entirely upon a party deck, I would say that it's probably not a viable project, but I doubt that it does. I lived in a lot of apartments, and frankly, I've never known anyone that ever lived in an apartment building that had a party deck. So I think it's going to be intrusive. I don't think it's going to be every night, but I think there are going to be times where things get very loud. I mean, think in your own lives. You've been at places with very pleasant people, and people get a little raucous, and that's part of the fun of life. But I don't see why the common grounds that they have wouldn't be good enough to put a grill on and do their recreating down there, why they have to have this little private area that has no buffer of trees, no buffer whatsoever. And there is definitely going to be noise. We're all adults, we understand that. And it's going to drift back to our houses, our homes, where our families live. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next in line is Attorney Shansky. So Attorney Shansky, you can unmute your microphone and please address the commission.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the commission. I am Attorney Marzei Shansky. I do represent Mr. and Mrs. Zaytunjian, who own the property at 42 Prattling Pond Road, and I am the author of the letter, pardon me, that was displayed on the screen. The letter covers a multiplicity of topics because the application suggests that it covered other topics, and I understand from subsequent correspondence from Attorney Hollister and from Ms. Rutherford that there is a reason for that. It doesn't dispel my concern about notice that I've described in some detail in my letter, but I will direct my attention to the party deck because the notice questions are raised in my letter. And partially to start by bouncing off of Mr. Richards' comment, frustrating to him that it was added as a condition after the public hearing was closed. And, you know, he said multiple times, we feel it's very important to the success of this community. As I say in my letter, if there's a condition of approval or a modification to a site plan, which may be the more accurate description of this, the appropriate response is to take an appeal of it at the time of the approval, because not to have taken an appeal is to have accepted the benefit of the approval and now try to change the rules after the fact. And as several of the commissioners have noted, there is a reason why the commission did this, and that reason has not changed. And while I appreciate the scope of the questions that the commissioners have asked, I beg you to not work that hard to make it okay in your mind, because it's not okay. It's not okay for some of the reasons Dr. Fitchman said. It's not okay because the fob system doesn't preclude bringing your friend up with you. The curfew system, unless there's somebody there to escort people out at 10 o'clock, what's to say people leave at 10 o'clock? They may not be able to get in at 10 o'clock, but if they're already there, who's to say they aren't staying? And it is absolutely the case that the sound will be transmitting by the reflection of not only the environment there, but the building itself. So this is an intrusive, horrible thing to do to the neighbors. And there has been no change of circumstance in the neighborhood that makes this proposition any more acceptable now than it was back in May when you approved the zone change and the implementing site plan. I'd like to take 1 second to look at my notes because I'm looking because so many of the comments that the commission made were so apt, and the nature of the questions needs to be internalized to the members of the commission to demonstrate the infeasibility of the request. I was particularly drawn to the question about the fire pit, because the fire pit, to which there of course is no definitive answer, there seems to be an intrinsic interest in having a fire pit, that dispels the seasonality of this enterprise, because the more inclement or chillier the weather comes, the more frequently the fire pit would be used. The fact that there's a grill up there, and each one of us with our smartphones has a device that we can listen to music at volume. So there's so many negative externalities associated with this that just dictate against its approval. It's not a quiet car in a train, right? There's no real peer pressure that makes people be reflective on the rooftop. And then on the issue of enforcement, Mr. Richards, went through a short list of possibilities, but there's no definitive expression of the succession of enforcement techniques, because I dare say this would be highly difficult, if not absolutely unenforceable. And it will be disruptive to the neighbors. And you approved this development with the 130-something units in it so that we have a succession of people capable of using this area. You approved it subject to this restraint that was a concession for the citizens on Prattling Pond and in the neighborhood. And it is appropriate in the absence of an appeal and because of the material reasons why you imposed it in the first place, to please leave it in place as a restriction. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have next is Jim Fetterman. Mr. Fetterman, you can unmute your microphone, name and address for the commission, and then address your comments to the commission.
Yeah, my name is Jim Fetterman, and I'm at B5 Prattling Pond Road. And I'm pretty much going to quickly summarize what's been said by my colleagues that live on Prattling Pond. I think the first thing is that I think, as one of the commissioners said, that this was a commission on a very painful process of trying to prevent this facility from being so close to Prattling Pond Road. I think that concession is now being, trying to be overturned after the fact, and I think that that's unfair. I think the other thing too that's important is that the level of the roof is now a bird's eye view. Probably go right to the Zaytujan's house and all the other neighbors, the Fitchmans, everybody's house is now at that same level, let alone the Corsons, who are like, really close, even though you did move it further away, like in the opposite corner of the Corsons, it's still really close to their place. And so it takes what was really a quiet neighborhood and now puts this kind of microphone up roof that could, possibly interfere. And I understand all the concepts about rules and regs and whatever. And there's a lot of laws I see and I see a lot of times they aren't enforced. And to try to enforce them, you got to bring the police and, all of that. And it just gets to be really messy. And I just think that the enforcement thing would be problematic. So basically, I'm very much opposed to this modification. And again, I think that the should stick with its original concession that they made to the neighbors of Prattling Pond Road to keep the neighborhood quiet.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Joanne Lawson, if you go ahead and unmute your microphone and address the commission.
Thank you. Joanne Lawson, 9 Prattling Pond Road. This may be repetitive, but I just want to say the rooftop party deck was not approved in May. It was a condition of approval that they not have a rooftop party deck. 2, it is unique to this property, Mr. Richards says. They don't have other properties with a rooftop party deck, so he can't refer us to 299 Colt Highway for a comparison because there is no comparison. 3rd, if you have a rooftop party deck that's built on top of the 3rd floor, that's the same as being on the 4th floor. And finally, he referred to it, I believe, as being a private outdoor amenity space, which to me makes it sound like only introverts would want to go up there to read. But many of these apartments have balconies of their own. And if you were an introvert, you would sit alone on your balcony to read. I believe that the rooftop party deck is a more apt description. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and Mr. Zaytujan.
Yeah, it's Doug Zaytujan, 42 Prattling Pond Road, where my wife and I reside. We're direct abutters to this project. The commission, again, no, not to be repetitive, but this structure was approved for 3 levels without a roof deck. And, but it was also approved based on a visual buffer that Metro Realty represented existed. And I would ask the commissioners prior to deciding on anything presented here today to go back to the audio tape or the videotape of the January 25th meeting of this year at 1 hour, 22 minutes and 17 seconds and view the visual buffer that was represented by Kyle Richards and Metro Realty that exists between my home and this project. And then come at our permission to walk the property and see what has progressed. The representation in January 25th by Mr. Richards is a gross misrepresentation of what we're now living with. Without a structure at all, there is no visual buffer that exists. The forest has been taken down on the property side of the project, and the representation from January 25th doesn't even exist. So we are now looking at a site being cleared that you all as commissioners decided 3 levels was adequate because there was a visual, excuse me, a visual buffer. That buffer is fictitious. You please walk our site, walk the property line and look, pivot from the property line to the clearing that that Metro Realty has done at the site and turn and look at my house. There is no visual buffer between it and the site. And so the representation that 3 levels would be adequate and taking off a 4th and a roof deck to appease the neighborhood, greatly appreciated. But you base that on the fact that 3 levels would be somewhat not noticeable because of a visual buffer that was represented in that meeting. It does not exist. I would ask that it is impossible for you to decide on anything further on this project until you see that no visual buffer exists as was represented by Mr. Richards. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. or Mrs. Corson, if you'd like to address the commission.
Yes, hi, good evening. This is Terry Corson, 52 Prattling Pond Road. I don't accurate comments about, what we've been experiencing. And now to hear that Kyle and Metro want to come back and, they're frustrated that they didn't have the opportunity to speak their concerns. Well, we've been frustrated since January 25th of the imposition that this project is taking on our lives and on our homes. And a rooftop development for a quiet space for the new neighbors, whatever they are, so they can sunbathe, to give them privacy. Really? Like, you have taken all of our privacy away. This project has taken our privacy in our lovely neighborhood from us. And as was just spoken, there are bulldozers and trees coming down. It is in our face every day. That's all we hear and all we see. And to now come forward after the plan was previously approved by this zoning team under other terms to ask for more, like, I'm just blown away that there are, other things. Like, when does this stop? Like, to me, this is a no-brainer. The damage is done. This was decided previously under different terms. I don't understand why there's a second time to come back and ask for more. And I don't know when this is ever going to stop. Related to enforcement, I guess we have to call the town or call the police when there's four-wheelers trespassing in the newly cleared land because of the noise that's happening today. This is the most disruptive thing. I'm not even home. We try and stay away from home as much as possible now because of the disruption and because of what's been taken from us. This is horrible to all of the neighbors, and obviously I'm very opposed to it. And I think this is a no-brainer. I will be shocked if this one gets passed. But thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else? Shannon?
Anyone else wishing to address the commission regarding the 402 application that's been presented? Yep, we do have another hand raised. Ann Newberry, your name, you can unmute your microphone and then name and address, please.
Okay, am I unmuted?
Yes, you are. Please go ahead.
All right. Ann Newberry, 23 Hatters Lane, Farmington. I am learning so many new things about this rooftop, and I would like to know more about what kind of lights even. Now fire pits, grill, and who knows what else. I think the commission should only reconfirm their vote of May 24th and continually not add a rooftop for residents at 402 Farmington Avenue. I feel very strongly. I think it is wrong, once a vote has been taken, to be able to come back to the commission with more and ask for this. That's all.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else that has called in this evening that would like to address the commission regarding this project? Again, please raise your hand using the feature in Zoom to make any questions or comments to address the commission regarding the 402 application with respect to the rooftop space. Okay, I am not seeing any other hands raised at this moment.
Okay, thank you. So I guess for the applicant, I don't know if it's you, Kyle, or anyone else in your at your company, but you do have an opportunity to respond to the concerns and questions raised if you choose to.
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So I'd like to try and put this into just a little bit of perspective. This total site, in terms of square footage, including the land that was donated to the Farmington Land Trust, is around 740,000 square feet. if you take away the land that we donated to the Farmington Land Trust, it's around 566,000 square feet of area. And the only area, common area, outdoor area that will be partially, and I'll grant you, I'll not even, I don't necessarily even feel that it will be visible, but the only area out of the 740,000 square feet of this entire site that is outdoors and it will be not completely obstructed is the 2,900 square foot roof deck that we are proposing to you here tonight. So this is a 19 acre site, or 18 and change originally. And the only outdoor area is 2,900 square feet. I just want to put that in a little bit of context, because the entire courtyard is screened from its surroundings, and there is no outdoor area whatsoever that is intended for recreation. And that was by design. I think it's also important to really to appreciate that this project comprises 131 apartments. And at least 131 people who will live in this community will become Farmington residents. And those residents should be afforded the same rights that everyone else in this neighborhood has. And while they may choose to live in a 600 square foot studio rather than a larger home on many acres, that doesn't make them second-class citizens. And that doesn't make them not have the right to recreate outdoors. That every residence and every adjacent home has the ability to do as they freely wish. Just because these residents may have a different preference for housing doesn't mean that they'll become unruly and not abide by rules, the same rules that we all have to abide by. So we take great offense to this idea that folks who choose to live in an apartment community rather than owning a single family home are somehow not afforded the same rules and the same rights that others in this area are. And particularly when we're talking about 2,900 square feet of almost 740,000 square feet of area. So respectfully, we'd ask you to consider that. These are Farmington residents. They will contribute to this community and pay taxes the same way everyone else does. And it's important that we offer this space to them. And frankly, we feel strongly that they deserve the right to have it. So with that, I will, I appreciate the time. It's not lost on us that this whole process on 402 Farmington has been many hours, and it's a lot of, it's taken a lot of time and energy out of everyone. But I wanted to just conclude with those final thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kyle, Ms. Rutherford, if I may just make a brief comment, Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, who's speaking?
Hi, Madam Chair. This is Andrea Gomes. I'm an attorney at Hinckley Allen, and I'm here on behalf of 402 Farmington Avenue, LLC. I just wanted to make a couple of comments, if I may, in addition to Mr. Richards' closing comments.
Okay.
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the commission, and I will try to keep this brief. I did want to expand just briefly on what Mr. Richards said, and he really took the words right out of my mouth. I think that if the commission looks at not only the square footage of the proposed rooftop deck, but also the distance of the deck from the neighboring homes, I think there's this concern that the noise will unreasonably trespass or unreasonably reach the neighboring homes. But really, when you put it into context, I'm no acoustician or acoustical engineer, but I really think that and Mr. Richards can weigh in on this from a practical perspective, as he knows his business. But I think the concerns with noise, I understand them, but I don't think that they're justified given the size of this proposal and given the size of the site. I also want to note, just from a practical perspective, the members of the public who spoke keep referring to this as a party deck. It behooves the applicant to keep this deck as intended, to keep it as a calm, relaxing outdoor space for its tenants in order to maintain that area as it intends. Ultimately, if noise became an issue, it wouldn't just become an issue for the concerned neighboring residents, but it would also become an issue for the tenants who are residing at the property. So from just a practical business perspective, it's behooves 402 Farmington Avenue LLC to maintain this as it intends. And lastly, if I may, Madam Chair, I just want to put my lawyer hat on for a second, if I may, and just make two additional comments. Several members of the public expressed concerns regarding enforcement and concerns that the enforcement measures proposed by the applicant will really not be monitored. Security cameras, the rules and regulations employed in the lease. Legally, the applicant is entitled to a presumption that it will comply with applicable law, including the Town of Farmington noise ordinance, and that it will comply with the parameters of its application. So the rules that are listed in the application that Mr. Richards summarized regarding key fob access, hours of operation, tenant rules being incorporated into the lease. There's a presumption that legally the applicant will comply with that. And I'd like the commission to keep that in mind going forward. And if an issue does arise, which again, we maintain it will not, but if it does, then the applicant is subject to enforcement measures from zoning or noise enforcement measures as any other property owner in the town of Farmington would be. And then I fibbed, I have one more point to make and then I'll conclude. Mr. Zaytujian did note, and Attorney Shansky noted in her letter, concerns with tree clearing in the area. I don't purport to speak for Ms. Rutherford, but in some follow-up email correspondence that Attorney Shansky was CC'd on as well as our team. Ms. Rutherford went out to the site and confirmed that the tree clearing was implemented to allow for perimeter erosion control. And Ms. Rutherford again can expand on this, but ultimately that was done in accordance with the approved plans. And therefore there really are no issues there with the clearing. Additional perimeter or screening will be incorporated in accordance with the plans. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Well, so yes, and that's your and the commission's choice. That is completely if you that's your choice.
Okay, thank you. So this
period.
is still open, the public hearing. We
Yeah,
have another-
Mr. Sager had his hand up. I don't know if he still wanted to, and then we've got another public hand. Okay.
Yep.
So Mr. Sager, do you wish to address the commission at this time? Your hand had been up.
Yes, if I may, please.
Yes, please go ahead.
So a couple of points of interest. First of all, I'd remind the commission that we have owned and operated for 30 years in town 4 other residential communities, affordable housing communities, and 1 market rate community at 299 Colt Highway. And in those 25 or 30 years, we've never gotten 1 complaint, 1 reprimand, 1 admonition from the town. It's never happened. Needless to say, when we were in zoning for affordable housing, we heard plenty of problems that would arise, but they never did. So we take great pride in that, and we manage very effectively. We are not some absentee manager. We probably have 15 other properties right in this neighborhood. I live in this neighborhood. So we do not fool around with enforcement. There will be no organized parties. The lease will have provisions that every tenant will initial. They'll understand that there are no organized parties permitted. So this is not a party deck. That's just an antagonism. That is not what is intended here. I am happy to prohibit audible music. People use earbuds and that's fine. There's no reason to have Bluetooth devices up there for audible music. And again, I would remind you that we have people sign this in their lease. And the town also knows from my 25 or 30 years of operating history, if they know two things. They know, number one, we're not going to sell the buildings. We're here to stay. And number two, if there's any problem, they know where to get me and they know that we respond immediately. We manage far greater complexities for the town of Farmington. In our affordable housing projects, we certify the income of every tenant who moves in and out every year. And we deliver that report and have delivered that report to Farmington for 20 years. That is a complex endeavor, figuring out what everybody earns and then verifying that with third-party sources. Managing this roof deck is a no-brainer. And it is easy. It is never going to be a problem, just like nothing's ever been a problem in any of our residential neighborhoods. If you look at 299 Colt Highway and the way that spreads out with grills and pools and everything else, that is far more expansive. And we have a neighborhood, a densely packed neighborhood immediately adjacent to that. And they were out when we tried to get 299 approved and said the same things. And it never happened. And it never will happen. This is housing that we're building for healthcare workers. They deserve the right to be there. These are highly educated people sacrificing their lives for us. I want them to have this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Zaytujan.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, the attorney from Hinckley, Allen, said that my comments were about the clearing that's going on. My comment was about the representation from the January 25th meeting showing a visual buffer that would shield my view from this structure from my property to it. It's a gross misrepresentation of what exists right now while the clearing is going on, that the commissioners can see, that they base their approval on a 3-story structure. And again, we give permission to walk our property line, our property, for you to see what we see now without a building, a 3-story building. Thank you.
Thank you. Someone else? One.
Oh, yeah, we got a couple now. Mr. Fitchman, go ahead.
Hi, I'm sorry to keep droning on and on, but Mr. Richards was saying that these new Farmington residents are being prejudiced against because they have no outdoor space. I don't know, is the courtyard classified as outdoor space, or is there something about that that wouldn't be outdoor space? So I don't quite understand it, because if it is outdoor space, I don't understand the prejudice against that. And then Mr. Sager is talking about altruistically doing this for the healthcare workers. Well, I've been in healthcare all of my adult life. I know what they're going to charge for these apartments. I know what folks make in healthcare. Only the very top tier of folks there are going to be able to afford these kind of rents, and those people are more likely than not going to seek to buy houses, not live in apartments. Maybe there'll be a couple, but if you're talking about desk clerks or orderlies or people that really maintain a hospital, there's, to my knowledge, because I'm in competition for those same types of employees, they don't make the kind of salaries that they could afford to live in this type of community. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else wishing to make public comment regarding this application? Any other public comments? Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands raised.
Okay, so commissioners, yeah, relating to the application in front of us regarding the rooftop amenity space. Do you have any questions before I close the public hearing? Do you need any additional information?
I do, yes.
I have one.
Yeah, so Patrick Carrier. So when the building was originally 4 stories, was the rooftop on top of the 4th story? Or was it on the 4th story, below can you explain that?
Yeah, sure. It was on top of the 4th story.
Okay, so it was the same. So it's not like it was, okay. All right, and then one other question for you, because again, I'd love to, I want this to be, spoken about before the public is hearing. Public hearing is closed. I do agree that the way this all went down, it was a very loaded application, and us commissioners put a lot of time into it, and a lot of thought. But there's a lot there. Let's say you had to, is there a way to lower it to the 3rd floor and bring it off the roof of the 3rd floor? And how would that impact your project? Is that something you guys would be willing to do, or it's not feasible? I wouldn't want to throw a condition in there like that, just in case it comes down to that. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
We'd have to study that. I mean, it's not technically infeasible. The reality is that you'd probably be eliminating apartments, and all the elevations of the building would have to change. And I mean, simply put, it'd be quite a big undertaking. I'm not going to mislead you into saying that it's technically infeasible, but our strong preference would be to keep the design as is. We think it's sensible. It makes the building present uniformly as 3 stories all around, rather than, going up and down. And so we'd submit to you that we'd prefer to keep the design as is.
Okay. And Mr. Sager, you said you would not be opposed to prohibiting audible music. So if that were to be a condition, you're okay with that? And then what are your feelings on fire pits? And I'm just trying to get a feeling, because again, I do agree that when this thing went down, one of the conditions that I caught was eliminating balconies, and we discussed it, and we ended up removing that one. And my reasoning at the time was, I believe I'm the one that said that it is in all of our best interest that this project be marketable. And balconies on the outside of an apartment is a big deal. And if it's something that if we had talked about it before the public hearing was over, we could have hashed that out and come up with something, and same with the rooftop. I did not really hear much about the rooftop until the condition came down, and quite frankly, I didn't catch it. It was just a big application, and here we are again. So we are discussing it in more detail. If we had discussed it originally, we may have just still kept it as a condition. But we didn't discuss it, and here we are. So
yeah, so, and I can respond to that. So I think what Kyle's point is that during the public hearing and all the nights, there was so much incoming that somehow the discussion of the roof deck was not presented. And the problem is that it came up as a condition when we hadn't even had the opportunity to respond like we're doing now, to alleviate any concerns. But in any event, that's past history. And addressing what you said, yes, I will confirm that we are okay with prohibiting audible music. We'd love to have the fire pit, but the greater good is that the roof deck remains. And if it's eliminated, it's eliminated. And I'm sorry, Commissioner, was there another question in there?
No, I mean, that's it. And I agree with you. Like I said, we are discussing it now, and really we should have discussed it before the public hearing was over for such a big change. That's a big change. And I kind of relate that to the or compare it to the balconies, no further questions.
One other quick thing before we leave the topic, though, and I've said we will prohibit audible music. I mean, you know, people in apartments can open their windows and turn up a stereo system, right? I mean, that can happen in a house, that can happen in an apartment, that can happen with your next door neighbor. And the notion that this is some, you know, bizarre set of circumstances that's unique. I mean, you know, people open their window when you're driving in your car, people lower their windows, they're playing music. I mean, you know, even though, yes, we will prohibit it on the roof, just, you know, common sense in the neighborhood, anybody could open their windows at any point in time and be playing music.
Right. And then the other thing I'll say is, and this is just a comment, not a question, but I also mentioned, you know, I see the area, and a lot of this is kind of circled around noise. And I can't help but think that, you know, the hospital's open 24/7 and the ambulances are ripping through there all the time. So if that wasn't the case, you know, that would be a different story. But I've been down that road. That road is everything in that area is I guess makes noise. So I mean, I guess that's just a comment of mine. That's why I hang up on that. And I also do realize that these people, the people that your tenants are going to want to govern themselves. You know, they got 133 apartments right next to them. The last thing that they are looking to do is to, you know, is to basically keep them people up. Anyways, those are more comments, not, you know, just.
I will stake my reputation on the fact that this will be an extremely quiet community, just as all the communities we operate in town are extremely quiet communities. You are hard pressed when you drive through them to see somebody, to hear somebody. That's the reality, not these scare tactics. That's the reality.
Thank you. No further questions or comments.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other commissioners need additional information before I close the public hearing?
I just have one question. I'm sorry if I missed this in the presentation. One of the attorneys had mentioned that the location of the deck in proximity to the nearest property line was a considerable distance. Do you have what that distance is off on hand?
Yeah, so the closest residence on Prattling Pond is approximately 500 feet away. And then it grows from there, from the roof deck to the nearest residence. And then, of course, as you head up down Prattling Pond, the distances get far greater than that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anyone else, commissioners? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, everyone, presenters, members of the public, the commissioners. At this point, I'm closing the public hearing. Before we decide, I need a motion and a second before discussing reasons to accept this application or deny this application. Who would like to make the motion, please?
I'll make the motion and then we can amend it. I'll make, okay, so Patrick Carrier, I make the motion to approve the request for modification by 402 Farmington Avenue LLC to the condition of approval granted May 24, 2021 relating to the rooftop amenity space at lots 40 and 40B1 Farmington Avenue, AKA 8231 and 9249 Farmington Avenue to the rear of 406 Farmington Avenue, as presented.
Keith Iber, I second.
All right, thank you. Discussion.
Okay, so usually I go first. Madam Chair, am I going first?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Again, like I stated, you know, I just don't see this as a noisy community. You know, the people that are living there, if they do go up there, let me start with this. I've been to the Wellington in Newport. I have family that invites us there every year, 3 nights a year. And it's got the similar configuration. And I have to say that, you know, there's balconies and there's a center spot there, and noise has never, ever been an issue when I've been there, you know, and I just don't see that being an issue on this property. You know, again, they have 130 something neighbors. If they do go up there, it's gonna be a problem immediately. So in respect to noise, I just don't see that. In terms of lighting, they still do have balconies and they have windows. And those that, get home at 8 o'clock at night or whatever, their schedule is different, those lights are going to be on here and there. So I don't see that being an issue. And a fire pit, just because you have a fire pit, I don't think, one of the tenants is going to sneak in 10 people and all of a sudden make noise. Even if they do, it's not even going to be noisy is my opinion. So I don't see this as an issue. That's my opinion. I mean, to remove audible music, to prohibit that, put that as a condition, I'm comfortable with that, So anyway, that's all I have to say. I don't see an issue with this.
Thanks, Patrick. How about you, Scott?
So I guess I see it a little bit differently. I go back to the original vote, and I think the decision about the 3 stories and then this roof deck was really about trying to minimize the impact on those neighbors. And I feel uncomfortable with them being able to come back and re-argue that point. I know they felt like they didn't have that chance then, but that decision was made in a greater context than we have tonight of the project as a whole, not just talking about the roof deck. So I appreciate their concerns about enforcement and all that. I'm not sure I felt like their responses put me at ease with that necessarily if there were issues. So I still have concerns about it, and I'll just leave it at that for now.
Thank you. And Marzei, how about your thoughts and comments?
It's interesting. I really was in favor of having a public hearing so people could know that there was going to be a change, but that did not indicate for me which way that change might go. And quite frankly, a common space, even if in a 600, 900 square foot apartment, if you want to have just a few friends over in this world of COVID, it's safer for people to be able to be outside. And from that point of view, I think there should be spots inside the building. I think there should be spots outside the building, and I think there should be a roof deck. And I think that we are living, and this is a community that is taking care of us. So I am very much in support of it.
Thank you, Marzei. John, your thoughts, please. John?
John Vibert?
He's muted, okay. John? All right.
I'm sorry,
Oh, we hear you. No problem. Go ahead.
So I was just saying, I'm kind of torn on this. I keep going back and forth. Originally, my concern with this project was that it was right in the dividing line between a fairly developed area, especially a commercially developed area, and residences. And so I was concerned about the whole border between those 2 areas. As I was listening tonight, I had concerns about this rooftop area because of the noise that it might occur. But I'm persuaded by Mr. Sager's information about the fact that he would regulate the noise there, eliminate audible music, and keep this as a nice, quiet area for his residents to use. And I think that kind of environment would not cause problems for the neighborhood. I do think that the fire pits should be excluded, as they might cause for longer group sessions. But generally, I view this rooftop as a quiet area for people who would like to get some sunshine. And so generally, after going back and forth, I'd be in favor of this.
Okay, thank you, John. And Keith, please.
Similar to Marzei, I felt strongly about having a public hearing for this because I did think it would be such an issue for the neighbors, as it was a concession that we gave them. I've gone around and around on this. I agree with the restrictions I'm sure that we'll be putting in place. My sentiment throughout the course of most of the presentation was, this was a zone that did not have to get this approval for this building at all, period. And Metro's going to get a big, beautiful building, and I'm sure they're going to do a great job with it. And there's going to be a lot of new residents in Farmington, and it's going to be great. So they got a big win there. So, do we need to go back and reopen it and now give them a rooftop deck as well? When we did, I will be seeing 402 Farmington Avenue in my dreams for the rest of my life. I mean, hours and hours and hours, we've put into this. So I was aware at the time, I was an alternate then, I was on a part of all those meetings still, of the rooftop deck, and I thought it was a nice concession to give the neighbors. That being said, all of that being said, I am swayed by our fellow commission member, Mr. Carrier. We do want this to be a successful building for the town, right? We do, somebody can open up a window and put any number of speakers and have the same sort of noise issue. There could be issues, there could be issues just from something like that or from a balcony, which they already have. So I would want to have some things, some restrictions listed out. When Kyle did his presentation, he was kind of, he said he wasn't really sure what they were thinking about a fire pit. Mr. Sager indicated that they were very much in favor of it. So I think that there are, my concern is that there might be some parts of the fire pit that, are made, obviously you want it to be an enjoyable thing, but that we would want to really think about what is going to happen on top of there. How much, how many residents are able to be up there at the same time? What kind of, I don't know. I just think it's a bigger ask given that, it is going to be an attraction to the building that will be a popular point of this building. So that's where I'm at. I've written down a couple restrictions that I have in mind, but we can get there after everybody has a chance to speak, I guess.
Sure. So I guess I'll say what I wanted to say, and then we can decide as a group if we want to modify the motion in the second. So, overall, the height of this building is lower than initially planned and presented. The roof deck will be located in the front side of the property, away from any neighbors. It's going to be buffered by the elevator shaft. I think that's what I saw. And the applicant is putting noise control measures in place. I will probably vote for it. But let's talk about any conditions. Do we want to modify the motion that was made?
I think so. I think that, Patrick, that was your intent when you made the motion, right? That we would add restrictions if we saw fit, right? What I had written down, I think no audible music, I think, is a good one. They've already said that they're not going to allow smoking up there, which is, 500 feet is a long way for cigarette smoke or cigar smoke or whatever to travel, but I think it's a nice thing to have knocked off. The fire pit, I think, is a really nice idea, and as a resident, I think it would be really cool. However, if you're going to limit time to 10 o'clock, the time limit to 10 o'clock is the limit to get that the door will let you outside, right? But if you're outside with a nice fire pit going, I don't know that you would feel it incumbent upon you to run back inside if your fire was still going. Again, as the attorney said, they have the right that, for us all to agree that they will live with inside the restrictions. But a fire pit's a really nice thing, and it's a nice thing at night. And I think limiting things that would be available at night would be a good idea. And then I don't know if there needs to be a cap on number of people up there. I don't know if it's allowed, but that was the only other thing that I had thought of.
Shannon, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Okay, so this, it's private property, right? We approved the project overall, but the whole fire pit, the fire marshal would be, there's a whole lot of things that still have to happen. for a fire pit to even exist there, right?
So, yeah, a request for a fire pit in a apartment complex would be reviewed by the fire marshal, whether it's on the rooftop or even in the courtyard, in the grills. There would be regulations as to how and when, and just the location and on operation of them. And it would be reviewed at the time of the permit, and it would also be reviewed. I can't remember if the fire marshal reviews a facility of such as this annually or every 2 years. But it is reviewed regularly by the fire marshal. If I may touch
Yeah,
on
go
the
ahead, yes,
occupancy, the occupancy of that area, I believe, is going to be, would be dictated by the square footage. So that would be a ultimate, no different than a restaurant or a bar area or that type of thing. That occupancy space is going to be set.
Gotcha. So
I
it'll be
believe
posted.
from the building code, either from the building, the building code and fire marshal, again, based on the number of egresses and the actual physical square footage.
Okay, cool.
And I do just want to note, we've got folks putting comments in chat. Yeah, with the public hearing closed, there are no further comments as Mr. Sear had noted. So just
Thank you.
real quick on
Yeah.
that. So thank you.
So thank you, Shannon, for letting us know like how this would actually, the approval, how it would happen regarding the fire pit, the building code. I mean, do we still want to condition those items? What's the overall feeling?
I mean, I think the audible music one, yes. No smoking, I believe they mentioned that. Is that something we have to put as a condition, or is that when we did
I
the
don't think
condition?
so. Attorney Kyle made it pretty clear that that was
Yeah.
one of their policies or ethics. So I think that'll be in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Well,
the big
and-
one is,
What do you want?
oh, sorry.
No,
Go
they're
ahead.
on, I was just gonna say, they're on record as saying there's no smoking, so it's part of their presentation and they're on record with that, so.
Okay,
Well,
yeah.
It's Marzei, guys. I just think we leave the fire pit and let the town do the regulation that it does from a safety standpoint. It was really my only concern.
Thank you.
So this is John. I would condition this as to not allow fire pits. I think the fire pits will, as been mentioned, will cause people to be out there later and later beyond the 10 o'clock hour. And so I think that is a good thing to eliminate.
John, would you be comfortable with more of like a, first of all, the 10 o'clock part, I mean, that does come down to an enforcement thing. And I, being in an apartment complex like that, I feel like it's in their best interest to enforce those rules. And that's one that, maybe I would assume that they would enforce that rule of the 10 o'clock. So maybe the fire pit, you make it an hour earlier or something like that. And let's say you make it for 9 o'clock. I mean, if they're, if the thing is still on at 10 o'clock, when they're supposed to be off, at least there's that 1 hour gap. Is that something that would, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I again, it's Marzei. I strongly disagree. I think there are people, these are mostly people who are working really, really hard and doing, at the end of the day, to be able to sit down till 10 o'clock at night and have a quiet cocktail outside on a pretty roof night. I don't think it's our job to enforce to that hour, to that level of detail. 10 o'clock is perfectly reasonable.
And I agree with you, Marzei. I'm more saying that because it's like, I wouldn't want to see John vote no on something because of that 1 hour, but I agree with you. I do agree with you.
Yeah. Okay.
And,
No. So are we leaving the motion as is, or do we condition? I think.
Patrick and Keith. So Patrick made the motion.
Yep.
And Keith seconded it. So, Patrick, if you wanted to, you could amend your motion and Keith could second that amendment and we could proceed, or you could draw it entirely and start over, or you can choose to leave it as is. Obviously, you don't have to amend it, but.
I'm going to amend my motion to include that audible music be prohibited.
I will second his amendment.
So discussion again, or no? We're good?
Well, it
Or
could
are
just
we,
say so-
are we good with that motion? Is everyone comfortable voting?
Yes.
All right, so I would like to vote on it by each person though. I think this matter, we want to make sure it's nice and clear. So I'm just going to call on everyone or each commissioner, excuse me, and please tell me if you're in favor or in opposition. So we, is it okay that Patrick restates it or no? We're good, or it was already
Well,
said?
no, you just, does everybody understand
Yeah,
what we're voting on?
Yeah, sorry, thank you.
No, that's okay.
Yes,
Okay.
All right, Patrick,
I am in favor.
okay, Scott,
Nay, opposition.
Marcy,
I am in favor.
John,
I'm in favor.
Keith,
In favor.
and I'm also in favor. So
Okay.
we have enough votes?
We do. It passes 5-1.
Okay, so the application for the fire, excuse me, why am I saying fire? Ooh, for the roof deck is approved.
Thank you very much.
That's
Thank
the
you, everyone.
rooftop without audible music, right?
It
Correct,
is
with a
correct.
condition, yes,
Correct.
thank you, John.
So,
Yep.
yep, without audible music. Yep. Okay.
All right, planners report.
Planners report. Sorry, folks, but we're not quite finished this evening. We're close, but not quite. So I'm gonna bring up, we have, most of you are probably familiar with Rue Storage on New Britain Avenue. I was contacted by the owners today. They have been approached by it's a construction company that's here in town on Eastview Drive, but Benuli, at the end of Eastview. They do quite a few state and federal contracts. And of course, with the continuing, I'll say just the continuing oddities that we have with, now I'm not going to get to the right spot for Rue.
This is the one that's by the bike path?
Is it 610? Thank
Okay,
you. I'm
alright.
too far up.
No.
There we go. Thank you, Sandy. So at any rate, Benuli normally goes from job to job, whether it's a state or federal. With the continuing oddities that we're having with COVID, just with execution and moving forward with state contracts, with necessary materials, et cetera, they're finding themselves not being able to move from contract to contract. So they have extra construction trailers that they would use as their headquarters on site. Sometimes they're material storage trailers, but generally these are their GC, if you will, trailers that are on site for these projects. And they have somewhere between 2 to 4 additional trailers that they need to store on and they don't have room at their property. And they've reached out to the owner of 610 New Britain Avenue, who's the Rue Storage. Back in May of 2020, we had the exact same situation arise with the exact same contractor. It was administratively approved by Mark DeVoe at the time. And this they had storage trailers stored for 3 to 4 months. So they're looking to do the same thing. Giving winter, it's probably going to be, not just 2 to 3 months. It could be more like the 4 months. So in discussing it with the owner today, I said, I didn't have an issue till we'll look at it till spring. We'll loosely say spring of 2022. And hopefully everything, the contracts start to move ahead and he's able to move these trailers off site. As you can see, and these are campers and RVs and boats. These are stored here legally. This is part of previous permits and expansions to permitted uses for this property. He'll use roughly this area to store these additional construction trailers. It's immediately adjacent to the M&J bus facility that was approved a few years ago. These trailers are going to come in, they're going to stay here, they're not going to be in and out, so it's not going to be an issue, you know, again, for the neighborhood to the south. So unless there's any concern or if there's questions, I'm happy to answer them. Then this is just simply going to move ahead. I've told them I'll follow up with them tomorrow, but any questions or concerns? No,
No.
off the head shaking.
Okay,
All right.
I have a
Good.
question.
Yes.
This is John. So the trees that appear to be on the south side, they effectively block those trailers from Juniper Drive?
Correct. I believe too, there's a notable gradient. So Juniper Drive sits higher and then between the trees and there's a slope down. This property slopes down to New Britain Avenue. So there's a notable, I know that was, I'm assuming this hill wraps all the way around. I could put the contours on, but there's a notable grade differential.
Okay, so it won't affect the people on Juniper Drive.
No, and again, yeah, you can see, so the contours, those familiar with looking at contours, we've got, there's a steep gradient here and then that continues. This is all coming down. So you've got the hill, the trees here for their property, and they've got evergreens on the rear of all of their properties, plus a mix of deciduous trees that are scattered through here. And then this is continuing to drop down. So I've got elevation, I got 250 over here. So maybe this is 245-ish coming through here, and I'm at 205, I'm saying 205. So you say a 40-foot elevation, 30 to 40-foot elevation change from basically this top to down in this area and down to New Britain Avenue.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly. Okay, next thing I have for you folks is to just touch base real quick on following up on Chase Bank and the ADRC. So we did take the construction discrepancies to ADRC. There was a very detailed meeting on November 18th. The meeting notes were distributed to everyone. So they're up here on the screen just for the record. Chase did post a cash bond. We actually doubled the original cash bond that we were requesting. And they are working through a variety of resolutions with respect to all of these items. They conceded that some of these were just field changes. Some of these were as easy as doing some painting and changing some trim band. Others are a little more complicated, like the front door. So though some of these things are still in works, but there is a bond in place. So you will notice that they're open, but the bond is being held, or if they're not open, they will be opening soon. Bond is being held until this is resolved to a satisfactory manner. So hopefully it doesn't escalate to the point where it's back in front of you folks, but just wanted to keep you up to date with that. So, so that's Chase Bank. Any questions or clarifications anyone needs on that at this point?
Just, I wish the communication was different, right? Like if there was a variance, like I wish the town was made aware.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
Just saying.
Yes,
Okay.
that was made known repeatedly
Okay.
during the ADRC meeting, because I can assure you the gentleman on the phone for ADRC were not shy.
Okay. All right.
So, yes.
Good.
So, and that meeting's recorded and posted too, in case anyone wants to see that in addition to the notes, but it's also, everything's there. We're continuing to keep track of it and we'll keep you up to date. ADRC, and this is really more for a January, February, it's just 2022 item for folks to keep in mind for those of us continuing forward into 2022 with TPZ. ADRC would like to meet with TPZ and just, I guess, kind of review charge, review focus, review, you know, their thoughts on what are important artistic elements, so that when comment letters come through, perhaps there's a better rapport or better understanding and commonality between what they're asking versus pushback perhaps from an applicant, and where compromises can be made and perhaps lesser so. And when we make a compromise, what that means when the compromise is made. So,
Awesome.
so they,
Good.
yeah.
Sorry, now I was just gonna say, would we like come in early one meeting, or is that what you're thinking?
We could
Okay.
still do like a 6:30 or a 6:15, nothing, not crazy. I don't think it takes a ton of time to do this. But I think just that opportunity to have folks connected, particularly since we'll have some new members being seated in January.
I think it's an awesome idea.
So,
Yeah, I hope we do more of that, I think. This is just my opinion. But yeah, awesome. So so the first meeting will be the vote and then the meeting.
correct.
It will be sometime after January.
Sure, right.
Right.
Yes. So, and then the only other thing would be just to touch on the January 10th meeting with new members coming in and needing the vote for the election for the chair and secretary. I am getting some direction from Bob DeCrescenzo, just because there's a little bit of inconsistency with respect to whether or not alternates should be voting in the election of chair and secretary for TPZ. Sandy was kind enough to go back through the history. I believe it dates back to 2006, when determination was made that alternates could participate in the vote. Obviously, this is very counter to some of the direction we were given at the end of last year with respect to some of our historic district commissions. What I'm not sure is if there are nuances in the Connecticut general statutes or in the town ordinance that make it permissible for TPZ for alternates to participate in that vote, while it is not permissible for the historic district commission. So Bob DeCrescenzo is working on that. So you should expect to see from me some type of documentation with respect to that, hopefully before the end of the year, so that folks have an opportunity to read it, digest it, ask questions. I'd like to try to get this very smooth and ironed out so it's crystal clear come January 10th as to what process and procedures we need to go be in place for all of us for January 10th. So that's all I've got.
Nice. Any questions for Shannon?
Nope.
No, okay. Wow, Shannon. No, I'm just teasing you. All right, so the last thing before we adjourn is we need to approve the minutes from November. Who would like to make a motion?
Yeah, Patrick Carrier, I make a motion to approve the minutes of the November 8th, 2021 Town Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
I second, Keith Lippert.
Awesome, thank you. So John and Keith, thanks again for all of your time and effort on this commission. It was wonderful working with you. Everyone else, happy holidays, and we'll see you January 10th. Thank
Just
you.
one moment. So just one moment.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm just gonna say it's been an honor to be on this. But one of the lessons I've learned that meeting on Zoom is not the same as meeting in person. And I'm really sorry that the bulk of our time in the last 2 years has been Zoom. And so as soon as you can get back to meeting in person, I would think that will improve things, especially in terms of having people know each other throughout the commission.
Absolutely. Thank you, John. Well said.
Yep.
I just wanted to say, because I know everybody wants to leave, so I'll keep it brief. Thank you. This was a really good experience. I met, a bunch of you guys outside of here, had a couple conversations, and it's been a really great experience, really fun to commission. I really appreciate town staff and how much work goes into this and how much, especially, I'm sure it was much harder with rotating town planners as well. So really thank you for everything. And Nez stepping up as a new chair.
Thank you.
Really, really great job. And it's been awesome. So thanks for everything, and learned a lot and appreciate everything.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
See you in 2022.
Have a good night. Have a great holiday, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank
Bye.
you. It was great.